as you go through this list, you start to think, man, maybe there's more I can do to stop them from ghosting. So let's go over what you can do in the first call, the second touch, the third touch with the candidate to make sure that applicant doesn't disappear on you. So, first off, on that first call, what I've run into is there's a few main reasons they don't get back to you. Something in the job description, as you were explaining it to them, they let you get through your spiel. You're going through it. You're trucking. You're going call after call for candidate after candidate, and you're feeling really good about it. And you get your spiel down to an art. Well, you may miss the cue that they heard something they weren't interested in. So I guess step one is slow down, be present, pay attention to the responses of your candidate, and ask lots of questions. Because in this conversation, you're going to catch on where they're losing interest if you're asking questions. So I like to mix it up. I'll tell them a couple things about the jobs, and I'll ask them a couple of questions about their relationship with the job. I'll ask them why do they want it in the middle of asking them if they can pass a background check. Mixing up back and forth means that it becomes a conversation and not just a spiel. And I know it's easier just to spiel through it, but trust me, you do this and they'll stop you in the call as you're asking these questions and say, this really isn't the right fit for me. And that's fine. Also, requirements. If you're asking them and you're going through it, when they hit a requirement they can't fulfill, it's a conversation now. They're going to tell you. And, they may, it happens. They may get a text message from another job while you're on the phone with them, and they got another job. Now, you're going to find another job can land in all of these. So I won't keep beating that horse, but a lot of times you lose them for another job, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about why you don't hire them. We're talking about why they ghost you. So let's talk about the second touch, because that's more important, right? The biggest thing we have control of is accountability. And not just theirs. I know it's easy to say they need to hold themselves accountable. They need to be accountable to their job. They're the ones who need it, right? But what about our accountability to them? What about getting to know them, treating them like a human who has their own needs, wants, and desires for their family, who wants to make sure that their bills are paid and that their kids go to college? How about the accountability that we are a guiding light to take them through this relationship? And the candidate needs us to treat it like that. If we treat the hiring process like we are guiding them somewhere and it's a team effort, then the candidate won't disappear on you. So I set follow-ups and I make myself accountable. I get to know the candidate. I ask questions and I keep, personal notes and, a lot of information in my head, but personal side notes and things about my candidates so that when I have a touch with them later, I remember that personal thing. And the conversation doesn't start with, hi, this is George. I'm calling on behalf of blah, blah, blah. We need this from you. It's, hey, Tim, did you finally get moved? Are you settled in yet? Great. Well, we're still, looking at the process for this job and you're still in the middle of the hiring process. So let's talk about next steps. Now it's still a conversation, and that conversation part's going to come up a lot because it's important, because it builds something that you need in this. It's the relationship, because it really, at the end of the day, most of this is going to come down to the relationship you built with your candidates. Because if you haven't built one, well, then they're not your candidate. And if they have an opportunity to tell you if they're going to not take the job, well, they're not going to waste their time to get a hold of you. And they're going to ghost you. And there you are. So building that relationship, being honest with them, that's where it's all going to land. So the accountability you have to hold for yourself to do your job, to get to know them, understand where they're coming from, and understand what they need is important. And that leads me to the third touch, because the third touch is usually when you're wrapping things up. And there's going to be things that are outside of our control at that point. But they'll let you know if you've done your part on the second touch, because no relationship, all ghosting. It's just how it works. If they don't trust you and they don't care about you and they don't treat your situation like it's important, then they're not going to let you know that they're done, because you haven't treated their situation like it's important. It's a two-way street. You got to remember that. So your candidate's got to feel like you understand what they're looking for, you understand what they need, and you understand what they want. So there's a few things in that, like location, location, location. Where do they live? What kind of weather is where they live? Is 20 minutes a long drive in LA? Yeah. Is 20 minutes a long drive in Missouri? No. Is it hard to get to work 30 minutes out in Minnesota in the winter? Absolutely. Is it hard in Texas? Probably not. So location's everything. You got to understand where they live and what a year-long job for them is going to look like when they get in their car to go to work. Understanding what they actually want to do, where's their passion. And there's a process called behavior-based interviewing. So if you don't have a specific process that you use, a good foundation for that is behavior-based interviewing, and you can look into that. I believe we even have a guy named Brian that teaches that within our organization. It's a really good webinar series. You should check it out. But on the process of ghosting, just being upfront that you want to get to know them will tell them that, oh, this is something that I got to remember. Now we're in a partnership. Now the candidate and you as a recruiter have turned the partnership out of the hiring process. Now it's not just a process, it's a part of their decision making. So how do we prevent it? Well, I think I've gone over a few of those things, but it's being honest, building a relationship, being upfront, treating them like people, because that's what they are. If you want them to treat you like a person, you got to treat them like a person. It's pretty much, just human 101, finding out their needs, being their go-to. I have candidates that will reach out to me before they reach out to their own recruiters, because somewhere in the process, I built a relationship with them from one or two touches that they're recruited and built in the entire process. And that happens all the time in my 15-year career. So I guess before I wrap it up, I will say that on a personal note, the sprinkle that I put on my cake that makes me successful and make sure that people don't ghost me is that I love what I do. I don't know if you could do recruiting if you didn't love helping people change their lives. Not properly. I suppose you could do it and be a cog in the wheel, but not the way I do it. Not and prevent people from ghosting, not and change people's lives. I learned that really fast. I'll tell you a little story that happened this morning. Was setting up everything here, was trying to get it all done, and then out of nowhere, a bunch of kids that I know through my children needed some help, and I was busy. But then I realized the reason I even went into recruiting was to help people, and right now I'm doing it for school systems, which means my whole job is to help children. And then I have these children physically in front of me that need my help, and I'm going to blow them off to worry about my webinar. Wow. I took the time and I fixed it. That's loving what you do. And I think that's a really important part of it. So I don't know. If I was going to say the most important thing was loving what you do, then I would have to say, if you don't do anything else, do this. It's a two-way street. Be upfront with them. I end every call with, do not waste my time, and I will not waste yours. I will be honest and upfront and tell you everywhere along the way what's going to happen, as long as you keep me informed on your relationship with your job search right now. And if you keep me informed, I'll keep you informed, and let's treat each other like human beings and go from there. So if you don't do anything else, do that.